Hello and welcome. Welcome to Around the Town with Mark. I am Mark Whalen, your host, and yes, we are always glad to have you tune in and visit with us. I have another really interesting show for you today. I've got a great guest, a longtime friend of mine, and someone that you probably don't know, but you know because you see his work on the rivers and the shore of all southeastern Connecticut. So allow me to introduce Jaxon Vibber. I call him my mooring man. So Jaxon, welcome to Around the Town with Mark. Hope you don't mind me calling you my mooring man.
That was a great introduction. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, please introduce yourself and give us an overview before we go into
I
details.
really
as to-
wouldn't say too much more than what
What
Mark had said, so I guess let me,
So you like that nickname, huh? The mooring man.
yeah, that's cool.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good. I'm glad.
And so seriously, what we have in front of us here are some, what a mooring customer or a client sees above the surface of the water. In front of the table is a buoy, what we call a summer buoy, and this is a pendant. It's a metal thimble on one end, and that's attached to the chain on top of the buoy, and the other end is a loop which secures to somewhere's on the bow of every boat. And there's a wand here, a pickup wand, which is secured to the loop end of the pendant to aid in retrieving the pendant that's floating in the water and getting it up onto the boat. So frequently, there's two individuals when you're sailing or power boating, and one is on the helm or on the throttle, the steering wheel, and somebody's up on the bow, and they have to be picked up out of the water and secured to keep the to get the boat secured during the off season or during the off non-use time. Sorry.
So this is for those who aren't boaters so much out there. If you look out your window and you're at the beach and you see a boat just sitting there all tranquil and nice in the water, the reason it's sitting there so nice and tranquil is because of these things and because of you.
That's correct.
Okay.
So these three items that I've discussed or talked about so far, the buoy, the pendant, and the pickup wand are utilized during the summertime. And why don't you hold this up, please, Mark? This is an example of a winter marker in the fall, the off season. These items over here are disassembled from the chain, and the winter marker is secured in place. The summer equipment is brought ashore, cleaned up, painted, checked for any chafe or wear or something that would cause be a safety issue in regards to the keeping everything in place, and they're stored over the course of the wintertime, and in the spring the process is reversed. The winter marker is taken off and the summer put on.
Of course, what the parts that our viewers aren't seeing are, for instance, the buoy. It's a beautiful, clean, nice, fresh, new buoy, but normally that would be attached to a chain, which would go down to the bed, correct?
It would go to generally some type of anchor system.
Anchor system that would go down to hold that in its place.
That's correct.
Okay, and do you usually have either numbers or names on the buoys to identify each one?
These mooring systems are regulated by the harbor masters in the towns here in southeastern Connecticut. So the harbor masters and the harbor management commissions assign positions for the moorings, and a mooring is a generalization of what we're talking about here, including the anchor and the chain. And so the buoys have a customer's name on there, the last name, or the name of the boat, the weight of the mushroom anchor, or the weight of the anchor system, and also a sticker or numbers designating where it is in an overall grid system.
Okay, so it is regulated. It's not somebody just takes their boat out wherever they want to and say, oh, this is a nice spot, I'm just going to put my mooring right here. And
the entire process is overall regulated by the town's harbor masters.
Okay, all right. So you have a system that you have to follow with that.
Specifications, minimum specifications for weight of a system, sizes of the chains,
Sizes of
the shackles, the
boats.
swivels.
Yep.
We're looking at what is generally above the water.
Right.
There's a whole different set of components below the water.
And you actually are a diver. You dive down into the water, and your wetsuit and everything else to work on the system that nobody ever sees.
I do dive, and we also have a system, a setup where we can haul anchors out of the water and visually inspect them.
Well, I've worked with you several times on your boat doing some of this work, and my comments to that would be, you really know what you're doing. It's complicated, it's difficult, hard work. And, you know, I know I probably was very frustrating to you because, you know, I wasn't familiar with all this, and, oh, Mark, you know, pull this in and do this and get that shackle on there real quick and do this. And I mean, you know, you got it down. You know what you're doing, and you work quick, and you put up with a novice like me for a couple of hours a few times helping you out. So I know it's tough work.
It is. It can be difficult, and having the right, having good equipment and a system, something that works for you,
and a better crew member than me,
makes
and a better crew member than me.
makes it easier.
Yeah.
That comes a deckhand or a crew member, whether they're good or bad, comes with practice and being able to work together and doing it more than once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed it. It's because I just love being out on the water, and that was such a different experience for me. Being out on the water, being on your boat, which is unique in itself. It's a work boat. You know, you're not sitting back having a martini in the in the aft cabin. You're working. You're handling the all the machinery and all those things that make all this stuff work.
Right.
It takes a hefty guy to move some of this stuff around, like you move it around.
I guess it does. It comes. You have to think out the process and make the heavy work easy somehow.
Yeah. Well, you got it down pat. That much I can tell you from my. So what's the history that brought you into this business? Have you been a resident of southeastern Connecticut for a long time? Did you have your father in the business, or a brother, or something like that?
I've been hanging around boats since I've been knee-high to a grasshopper, so to speak.
Okay.
And I started in boatyards when I was the day after high school. I was working the next day, and a lot of general tasks involved through those years in the boatyards. And then at some point, I just decided to switch gears, I guess. And that evolved and led into this maintenance, sales, maintenance of these mooring systems. So.
Give me an idea on an average season, how many moorings or boats of different kinds are you responsible for?
Not all customers receive the same service.
Okay.
But I would say an estimate would be maybe 400 jobs a year.
Wow, that's a lot.
And that could be 400. That could be 350, 400 in the spring, the same number in the fall.
Right, right. Yeah. And is this usually on a contract basis with a particular customer, or just?
Generally, guidelines are established, but sometimes you run into, it's not a cut and dried, it's not a black and white, it's not sitting in front of a keyboard.
Oh,
and
it's not just changing a tire, right?
No, it's not.
No, definitely not.
So to answer the question, some jobs just are going to take longer than others, and try to do the best you can. Of course, like we all do.
Sure.
But it's always a changing environment. Every day on the water is different, and overall quite enjoyable.
Well, I'm sure you've got good weather, bad weather stories. I'm sure you're out there. We all know what's like out in the water. It changes before you can.
You're only out certain days. You're only out there because you have to be out there.
And you really would rather not be out there, but
it's not a sane reason in the world to be out there on certain days, but
you're out there.
But you're out there, and it can be dangerous, I guess. You could word it dangerous. You have to take your experiences and put them all together to decide whether to turn back and go back in. Yeah. Somebody taught me a long time ago, after being in trouble a couple times. Seemingly 1, 2, 3 right in a row, risk versus reward.
Aha, okay.
So you have to decide certain days whether to turn around, go back in. It's not worth the.
Well, that could be said for a lot of businesses, but in particularly yours, because you're dealing directly with Mother Nature, and out on the water, there's no fooling around. If seas get rough,
it's all business.
It's serious business.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to really have a knack to pay attention to it, and I'm sure you've got equipment on the boat that guides you, depth finders and radar and all those types of things.
No radar, but depth finder and a life jacket. Those are important things to have. Safety gear,
Yeah.
Being boarded occasionally by the Coast Guard for safety checks, and you have to try to be prepared. And go about it with diplomacy, I guess. Yeah,
and there's a piece of equipment you showed me one time when I was helping you on the boat that I don't know what it's called, but if it hits the water, it sends out an emergency signal. Is that?
Yeah, a personal locator. It'd be a personal locator beacon.
Okay.
You maybe have it attached to your body or onto a life jacket or like that. It would send off a strobe. It would send off a satellite signal to a satellite or to an aircraft. Okay. And that would be, truthfully, I couldn't tell you where it gets transmitted to, but theoretically within 30, 45 minutes, some kind of a rescue personnel craft or Coast Guard would be
pulling you out of the water.
Would be trying to find you.
Okay.
You said pulling me out of the
trying to find you first. Trying
to find you, and there's a strobe on this device. So if it's at night or like that, it's there's a signal. I won't call it a radio signal. There's a signal, and it's just a basic tool that is a good thing to have.
I would say it's probably one if not the most important piece of equipment that you have on board with you, because that's truly, if you hit the water and if you're knocked out for some reason or something, you're still going to get that help with that that unit
Somebody's
attached to
going to
you.
come and get us.
Somebody's going to come and get you and hopefully pull you out and dry you off and give you a martini or something. So you feel like getting back into the water again for the next day.
Right.
Oh, that's terrific. So, do you have any particular stories to share, like your most horrific, or no, or they're all just so
You've
different?
caught me off guard
Oh, okay.
with that question.
Well, good.
You know, every day you go out on the water, you
never
try to
know.
apply yourself so that you
And you never
thinking
know what's
that you're
next.
not going to jeopardize your boat, the people with you, yourself. You don't have to go looking for an adverse situation. At some point, it will probably happen.
And it really
And-
kind of finds you. You don't find it, obviously. You're not looking
That's
for
right.
that. Yeah.
That's right. You
Yeah.
have to try to have safety gear, whether it be an anchor with you, being ready to set that anchor
Right.
in an emergency quickly.
Yeah.
I think that's from my boating experiences. I think that's probably as most important as right up there amongst the top. If there's top 5 things, you know, having a
Having gas in the
having
tank.
a VHF radio, yes, having enough fuel,
Yeah.
knowing how to sail, and having an anchor and being able to set that anchor.
And have a whole lot of boat sense.
Just common sense.
Common sense, a whole lot of common sense. Yeah. Well, I know, again, when I was helping you, there's also a lot of gear involved, overalls and the big heavy rubber boots and the gloves and, you know, the hat too if it's cold. And all
Right.
those things are, you know, totally necessary.
And with
'cause-
that in mind, it's important to have it's important to be wearing at least an inflatable PFD, personal flotation device, a life jacket. When you or if you are involved in a situation where you go over the side, you don't have you may not have a lot of time. If you've got your boots on and your foul weather gear and
Those are like weights,
a couple
aren't
other
they?
things in your pocket that and if it's cold or if you're hit on the head or shocked,
You're in trouble.
you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest objection to those of us working on the water is they're bulky, they're in the way. So an inflatable, something that you wear, a Mae West type thing, something you can wear that's reasonably comfortable and out of the way. You can even wear that underneath a garment.
Yeah, because the water.
They're automatically, they can be purchased so that they have to be inflated manually with like a little ripcord,
Okay.
or if there's 2 or 3 inches of water immersion for 3 seconds, they would go off automatically. That's all you have to.
Yeah, because this is really, you know, it's really strenuous work. You really need, you're bending over a lot. You're pulling up lines. You're pulling up heavy things out of the water, and you know, it's.
If you think about it, you know, back to the PFD situation, it's a good idea to wear a PFD on your boat, even if you're not fooling around with anchors and chains and moorings and like that. Accidents happen quickly, and your guests on your boat may not know how to come and retrieve you.
Yeah.
They may know.
Well,
Virtually, they're just along for the ride.
Oh well, especially if it's a pleasure craft. You know, you say, hey, you know, let's go out for
They're along for the ride.
let's go along for the ride and have a pizza, and I'll show you the sights. And you know, something happens, and these people are saying, "Oh, I don't know. I've never been on a boat before. Now what do I do?"
Well, they don't know what to do.
They don't know what to do.
And within
And the skipper, if any way incapacitated, isn't going to be able to tell them what to do.
That's right. Also, if you go over the side, I would say within 100 feet of the boat and the person, you quickly lose track of visual track in the waves and in the conditions of where that individual is.
And well, it's certainly a lot different standing on shore or standing on a pier and looking out at the water or looking on a boat than it is when you're actually out in the water, a mile off of shore or
Right.
whatever it would be. It's
Exactly.
a completely different environment.
Yeah.
You go from calm to chop to wind that wasn't there before. So you have to be prepared. It's not something you want to do, especially on a workboat, as a surprise. Like, oh, wait a minute, how come it's not the same as it was half hour ago when we were sitting all nice on the
And
dock?
many days there's really nobody there to help you.
Right.
Before Memorial Day weekend, which is our traditional start of the boating season,
Yep.
and Labor Day or shortly thereafter, it's kind of the so-called end of the.
Yep.
A lot of times, I'm on the water in March or April. It's not so much March. Let's say April, early May. After Columbus Day weekend, November,
Yep.
you're out there alone.
Well,
Or you're out there with you shouldn't be out there alone. You should be with another individual always, but there's not a whole lot of people around to help you.
Well, the couple of times I worked with you was one particular spring season, I believe, and it was early in the season. And that's why I kind of mentioned that, because it was nice and warm, and it seemed like a beautiful day when we were setting off from the dock. But once we were out there, it gets cold, it gets wet, and I remember not seeing a boat anywhere around until the Coast Guard boat came to give you a sudden inspection on your.
Oh, I don't recall that. We had an inspection.
You had an inspection, yeah. He wanted to see your paperwork and your license and all that kind of stuff.
They want to see your safe boating certificate or captain's license.
Yes.
They want to see a horn.
Yes.
They want to see a throwable life jacket.
They came on board and they checked all your systems that they had their little checklist, and fortunately they didn't ask, well, does your crew know what they're doing? No, he's just some guy I know that he's helping me today.
No. And that's the whole point. That's the whole objective behind the safety checklist that the Coast Guard performs, and it's not only the Coast Guard that performs the.
Oh, really?
The Power Squadron or the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary will perform safety checks also.
I remember how.
They'll do them on a boat launch ramp.
Oh, really? Okay.
You don't even have to be on the water.
Okay.
And not everybody knows. Not everybody knows what you should have, or a recommendation of good equipment to have.
Good equipment, and yeah, I mean, I'm sure you really need to be prepared like you are for just about anything. You've got to have all that equipment, and it's not a matter of, oh, well, that's not going to happen to me. You've got to pretend, or not pretend, but you've got to think that might happen to me someday, so I need to have that equipment with me. And and I remember the one thing, the Coast Guard, they were extremely efficient and professional, and they knew what they wanted from you, and fortunately you had what they were looking for. So it was a brief encounter, but I do remember that. It happened to me before when I was sailing in the south of France with a friend of mine who I've had on the show before, and we were boarded by the Coast Guard, the French Coast Guard, and they wanted our passports, and they wanted to check over the vessel. They walked around the vessel to make sure we had all the necessary safety equipment and that type of thing. So that wasn't my first time going through that, but at least I didn't speak much French back then, so Fortunately, they spoke enough English that we got through it. But yeah, it was fun. So we're down to actually just a few minutes. Is there anything I haven't asked or talked about that would our viewers would love to hear that you would have to say, experiences or anything? Or am I putting you? I'm putting you on the spot again. That's
No,
okay. But that's what the show's all about. It's all about you.
Wow.
Yeah. What you have to say. And so.
Get out on the water, whatever size boat it is.
Yep.
Have some. Think about where you're going to be going. Is the boat that you're in big enough and safe enough for where you're going? Where that inflatable or PFD.
And make sure that you have a tutorial before where you tell all your
well, that's one thing I do.
Everybody on boat, like this is what you need to know. This is where this is.
One thing I've gotten much better at doing is I file a float plan. Somebody that I'll either do it, I'll file it directly with. I file it with a trusted friend, a contact that I can count on. That if he doesn't, if I'm in New London and I'm going to Niantic Bay, I give him generally a call, text to inform him that I'm at that I'm at a certain point, and I'm proceeding west towards Niantic Bay. I expect to arrive in that area within an hour and a half. If they don't hear from me within that time, it's perfectly, it should be assumed that I'm in trouble, and they should be calling the United States Coast Guard.
Terrific.
So a float plan.
All right.
A float plan is
essential.
A safety.
Would you call it a safety piece of equipment?
It's a safety piece of equipment. These.
Well, we're
not knocking any fishermen. They go off for hours. Really, nobody knows where they are.
Yeah.
They can't give away the secret fishing location.
Right,
you know.
okay.
But somebody in their family or the likes of that should know that.
Certainly.
Hon, if you don't hear from me by 4 o'clock, something's wrong.
Well, Jaxon, we're out of time. This has been fun. I want to thank you very much for being my guest today.
Well, thank you.
And this is a part of being in a water community that not everybody is familiar with. So thank you again. Thank my viewers for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed hearing about Jaxon's adventures on the high seas. My mooring man here. He certainly knows what he's doing. He does a great job of it. If you ever need his services, obviously contact me or look him up, and you'll get the best job that you can find in southeastern Connecticut. So again, thank you for tuning in with us today. We are glad to be back. We're going to have another show for you coming up real soon, and safe boating.